Good morning. It is Sunday morning of the early May bank holiday weekend here in the UK. But despite the fact that it is a Sunday, I have a lot that I need to do today and it's some exciting stuff. So let's start getting ready for the day and I'll tell you what we need to achieve because I've got quite a few things on my to-do list. So there are two main things that I need to do. The first is that I am going to an event this evening, an online event, so I don't have to go anywhere, that's being put on by Readsy. It's novel revision beyond the first draft. It's part of their online writing conference series that they're doing this year. So because I'm in the UK, that starts at 4 p.m. my time, and I think it'll run until about 8 o'clock. I did their How to Plan Your Novel event back in February and I vlogged that, so I'll leave a link in the description, and it was so good, so much good value. Now, when I did that event, I was actively planning a novel. This time I am not actively revising a novel, but that doesn't mean it's not going to still be valuable. And I think that the beauty of these Readsy events is that they do give you like such practical, actionable advice that you can kind of apply that when you do come to that part of the process. You don't have to be in that part of the process when you attend the event, you know? So I'm still really excited for it, even though it's not as directly related to what I'm doing in my writing at the moment. I am at the absolute dregs of this moisturizer. That's still got a week's worth of moisturizer in it. The second thing that I need to do today is work on my copy edit for what will be my fourth book. If you're not sure what a copy edit is or how that differs from other types of edits, I recently did a full breakdown of the editing process with all the different stages, what to do in each stage, what to expect. So I'll leave a link to that in the description as well. But this is the copy edit, which is the stage between line edit and proofread. So it's a lot of really detailed stuff. I probably only need a couple of hours to finish the copy edit, but it's very tedious, so it's very helpful to me to have you here as a way of keeping me accountable and making me actually do the work. So most days of the week, I'm very regimented with my morning routine. But on Sundays, my partner does the grocery shopping in the morning. And I don't usually have enough stuff for my normal breakfast until he gets back from doing that. So I have to wait. He's probably gonna be another hour or so from right now when I'm filming this. So instead, I'm gonna go make myself a coffee, maybe go sit outside with the dog for a bit because it's nice and sunny today, but it's not as hot as it has been, which is great because it's been torturously hot, but I think it's only like 10 degrees right now, so that'll be good. So sit outside with a coffee, and then by the time my partner comes back, I'll be able to eat breakfast and get started for the day. My Sunday routine is a little bit thrown at the moment because as it gets warmer, my everything showers, I have to do them more than once a week because I just feel gross, and especially with how hot it has been. So I took an everything shower on Friday, so I don't need to do that whole process today, and a lot of the weekly reset stuff that I normally do I'll be doing tomorrow because it's still the weekend. So today I'm just focused on finishing my copy edits and doing this Readsy event. If you're interested in seeing like my weekly reset process where I've got like a tech checklist and a domestic checklist and a writing checklist and stuff like that, let me know. I definitely will be sharing over the next couple of weeks my annual reset process because that's a really important thing that's got a lot of the like writerly admin that people don't think about associated with it. So I will be sharing that. But if you're interested in seeing my weekly reset, let me know and I can always do a video on that. But for today, we're just focused on copy edit and the novel revision event. So let's go have coffee and sit outside with the pup. Okay, I'm very hungry, so we're gonna distract me from my hunger by actually being productive. I'm gonna start on my copy edits. So as a little bit of background here, so a copy edit, like I said, is between a line edit and a proofread. And essentially what that means is we're looking for accuracy, continuity. So I'll give you some examples. Accuracy would be like if you say that someone had an EKG, like an electrocardiogram, like to test their heart. But you're writing in the UK and your story's set in the UK, the copy editor might say it's called an ECG in the UK. Continuity would be things like, in your last book in this series, you did Ren Fair, capital R, lowercase f. And here you've done all lowercase. So you need to change capitalization to make it consistent. Or one example that I did the other day when I was working on this is where it says, like, I opened my eyes, but she didn't have her eyes closed before. It specifically said that her eyes were squinted, so she couldn't open her eyes are already open. That kind of thing is what a copy editor is looking at. There are often proofreading marks in a copy edit, just because you can never have too much proofreading, but the copy editor is not a proofreader. This is actually the first time that I have had my copy edit and my proofread be separate. So in the past, I've always had my proofreading marks in the copy edit and there wasn't an additional proofread after that. In this case, whilst the copy editor has left proofreading marks, there is another proofread to come. So I disagree with some of the proofreading marks that have been left. Like, my understanding of how to use a semicolon seems to be very different than the copy editor's opinion of it. So what I've decided is this is not advice, this is what I'm doing. It's probably the wrong thing to do, but I've decided to reject some of those suggested changes. And then if the proofreader also recommends it, then I'll consider it. But I'm pretty sure I'm right about the semicolons. So anyway, I started these on Friday, so 2 days ago, and I got a good ways through. So the Word document for this story, which I'm using Google Docs, but my editor uses Word. Wow, I got even further than I thought. Yeah, okay. So the Word document for this is 176 pages, and I'm on page 114. And getting to that point took me a couple of hours. So I think it's going to take me an hour and a half to finish it. And then I've got a little bit that I need to do after that before I can send this all into my editor. So I think let's get started on that. I'm going to have you quite zoomed out just because I don't want you to be able to read it as I'm doing it. And we'll try to get as much of that done in the next hour before my partner gets home as possible. It's currently 9:34. And my partner usually gets home at about 10:30. So I'm going to throw on some music and see how far through this I can get before he gets home and I get to make myself breakfast. I'm so hungry. I'm so ready for breakfast. I'm doing this copy edit and there's a scene where they're eating sushi and I just read the words tempura fried salmon and my mouth started watering. I need my partner to get home. I've still probably got about 20 minutes until he does, which is good because I'm on page 151 of 176. So it's very possible that I will actually get through the rest of these edits before he gets home. And honestly, finishing my copy edits before breakfast was not on my bingo card for today. So I'm not mad about it. There is more to do here, which I'll explain in a bit, but I'm very happy with my progress. So I'm gonna keep locking in. Got Taylor Swift on. Let's finish this. Okay, so my partner has just gotten back and I have just finished. So I'm going to go make breakfast. I always watch a YouTube video over breakfast, so I will do that and then I'll come back up and we will go through the next steps because I do, like I said, still have a few things to do. But I am so hungry, so let's go downstairs. I don't know if anyone else experiences this phenomenon where you objectively hate a song, but you still have it constantly stuck in your head. That's what's happening to me right now with the new Cat's Eye song, Gnarly. Literally, it's the only thing going on up here, so that's fun. But anyway, we are back at the desk. I told you I had a few more things I needed to do on this copy edit, and we're gonna do that now. It's about 11:15, which I don't know if I said, but the Readsy event starts at 4, so we've got a good few hours until then. So what we need to do now is 3 things. First of all, one of the comments towards the end of the book was that I had spelled one of my protagonist's name wrong. So I now need to do a search of every possible spelling of his name to make sure I haven't spelled it wrong anywhere else and the copy editor just didn't catch it. I'm now paranoid about that. So that's one thing we need to do. The second thing I want to do is I just want to go through and make sure that all of the remaining comments are to do with formatting. So there are some comments in there still, but they're not suggested changes. They're comments for the people who will do the formatting of the book, telling them these are text messages, this is a passage from a book, this is a sign, and like they're in different fonts, but I guess that's them wanting to distinguish that more clearly. So I'm gonna leave those in, obviously, but I just need to go through and make sure that I've not glossed over a comment that is actually about something else. So that's the second thing. The third thing is I have written my dedication, acknowledgements, and an author's note. I've written an author's note just because this story deals a little bit with dementia. So one of the main characters is a carer for his nan who has dementia, and I just wanted to put that in a note and make sure that people are aware of that before they get into it. So I just want to edit those because I just wrote them very quickly, and so I just want to go back through the acknowledgements and make sure that I haven't forgotten to thank anyone important. And once I've done those 3 things, I should be ready to send this off to my editor. So I'm not expecting this to take very long. Like, I should be done with this within the hour, and then we can move on to stuff to do with the Readsy event and maybe just a few other fun things to do in the day. But let's get started. Okay, that's done. I had my partner read through it just to make sure that everything looked okay, which spoiled the fact that I do thank him in the acknowledgements, but whatever. So now I just need to download that as a Word document, attach that to the email, and now I just need to write the email to my editor. I do have a couple of comments that I want to make just about choices that I've made in terms of like accepting and rejecting some of the suggestions. So I want to explain that, and also just explain that I've attached the front and back matter as well, because that's not something that she asked for at this stage. I wanted it to be included in the proofread, so I've included it at this stage. So let's do that. Kirby. I feel like I have to be in the right frame of mind to find dog videos funny. You know what I'm talking about, like videos of dogs knocking people over or just doing stupid stuff. I swear I just watched like 7 in a row and I feel like I'm gonna start crying. I'm laughing so hard. I just am like easily tickled at the moment. Anyway, we got back from the dog walk. I've been just chilling, scrolling for a bit. So it's now about 2 o'clock. I'm gonna have lunch. We always eat lunch and dinner and obviously breakfast, as you saw, a little bit later on Sundays because my partner plays football in the evenings and he doesn't like to eat obviously before football, so we don't end up eating dinner until like 8 or 8:30 on Sundays, which means all of our other meals go later to match that. So we've just got leftovers. It's this like chicken and white bean dish that we make. So it's like butter beans, courgette or zucchini, lots of garlic, some chicken, lemon. It's really, really good. And we have it like twice a week. I'm gonna have that for lunch. Then I've got a little bit of admin to do. We've got a couple of house projects that I need to get someone to quote for. We also are buying a chest freezer to go out in our garage because we got a Costco membership and we just don't have enough space in our inside freezer to keep a lot of bulk stuff. So I need to confirm which chest freezer I want and then order that. The good thing about things like that is we have a bunch of solar panels on the house, and so the cost and impact of like running one of those typically is offset because we have like 14 solar panels. And then the last thing that I need to do is a little bit of research on some cars. I have my driving test at the end of this month. I've been driving in the US since I was, 15 and got my learner's permit on my 15th birthday, but I don't have a UK driving license. So I've started lessons. I had my first lesson yesterday and it went really well. He said, honestly, you could probably pass right now, but there's just a couple of the maneuvers and stuff that I'm still getting used to. I'll be taking the test in the car I'm doing my lessons in, so it's good to just get to know that car a little bit better. But I'm gonna want a car shortly after my test is done. So I just want to do a little bit of research because we'd been looking at a couple of specifics in what we were looking for because we're looking to get a used car. So I've just got that little bit of admin to do while I have lunch, and it's a couple of hours now until the event starts. So I think we'll do some admin, and before the event starts, I will catch up with you about what to expect and what I think it's going to be like, and then we'll do the event together.
Didn't think I'd climb so high. Sky,
18 minutes until the first event starts, so I think this is a good time for us to check in on kind of what to expect. It's a weird angle. I'm very sorry. You're like looking up my nose. So the event consists of like 4 mini events within it, so 4 talks. So if you think of like a conference that you go to and you would have different sessions, this is very similar, except everyone goes to the same session. So there's 4 classes. The first one is editing your messy first draft, and that's with an editor. Then we've got revision the structural way, and that is with author Caroline Levitt. Not to be confused with White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt, very different person. Then we have How I Finished My Novel, which is a panel with authors talking about their revision processes. And then we have Revision Tips and Applying Professional Feedback, which I believe is with another editor. Like I said, I'm not really editing anything at the moment. I've just finished my copy edits, but I am planning on editing 1 more book collaboratively with my editor this year and potentially self-editing another. So definitely got plenty of room to learn from this event. So I'm really excited. I'm going to take notes. I'll show you a little bit. I'm obviously not going to show you the whole sessions or a ton of the session content because it's a paid event. People are paying to be here, but I will do my best to convey some of the best insights, and we can talk about the other events that they've got going on. I'm well set up. I actually made myself a cup of tea. I haven't had a cup of tea since I switched to iced coffee a few weeks ago, and it's very nice, going down very well. I also, as you will have just seen, got my crochet. It took me about 5 million years to sort my yarn out. But I'm making this, it will be a skirt. Despite how short that looks at the moment, that's going to be ankle length. So yeah, it's taking me a while. It's my first time doing like crochet lace, and it is way less difficult than it looks. I also, just in case I get bored of that, have another project that I've started that I can do on the side. This is nothing yet, but it's going to be a top. And I don't love working with this wool. It's like a recycled cotton, and it's very, very stiff. And I can't complain about the fact that it's recycled. So anyway, so I've got those 2 projects I can be working on while the sessions are on. And then in between sessions, because there's usually like a 10-15 minute break in between the sessions. So between the sessions, I'll catch you up on what's happened in the previous session.
Funny when I'm looking back, every single photograph never fails to make me smile. Hold on, don't let go of me yet. Don't want it to end, just stay right here. Hold on, don't let this slip away. 'Cause I don't know anybody.
Okay, so that's event 1 done, and that was, like I said, with an editor who was a Reedsy editor until like a month ago, and apparently now is a commissioning editor at the list that publishes Fourth Wing. So this was kind of about taking truly just your first draft, the first thing that you've written, which she decided to call draft 0. I don't know if that's the terminology that I would use because I 0 draft and it looks very different than what I would consider a finished first draft, but that's what she called it, so that's what I'll call it here. But she was saying all draft 0 has to do is reveal structure, explore voice for your main character, reflect your style as a writer, and exist. A lot of people say it just has to exist, and I think that's true. It does just have to exist, but by existing, it will inherently reveal structure, explore voice, and reflect style. And then the bulk of the session was around what she calls the editing action plan. So what you're going to do to take it from draft 0 to your next draft. And the first thing she talked about was getting distance from your draft. She said a minimum of 30 days. I don't put things aside for 30 days. I'd love to be able to do that, but my publishing timelines don't allow for that. But basically getting distance so that you can then go in and be a little bit more objective, get a sort of top level view of the story, and be able to kill your darlings a bit more. She talked about then identifying landmarks, and she kept using this analogy of like putting the landmarks on a map so that you can draw a border around your story, so that then as you're going in and revising, you're not veering too far from these landmarks. And how you get from landmark to landmark might change, but those landmarks will still be there. Let's talk about engineering and reverse engineering a 1 to 2 page synopsis. I hate synopses, but she's not wrong that is very valuable. And then finally, following desire. So every scene, your main character should be taking steps closer to or getting pushed back from what they want, and that step really helps with pacing issues. The next session is the one with Caroline Levitt, and it's really funny. Martin from Reedsy made the same joke that I did. Not even joke, just made the same comment I did about it not being the White House press secretary. So that starts in about 10 minutes now. As you will have seen, I got bored of my lace very quickly and moved on to this, and I'm now getting bored of this and might go back to the lace. I'm gonna finish this row at least, which means I will have doubled this one. It just is so annoying to work with. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. This is not useful for you. Sorry.
I'll be there till I'm gone. I'll be there till I'm gone.
Okay, so talk number 2 done. Caroline Levitt is always very interesting to listen to. And she has a lot of value and insight to add. It was a less structured presentation. It was just her talking rather than going through slides or a specific structure that she recommends. So I took a lot of notes. I will try to give you some insights, some nuggets of wisdom. Sorry for that noise. I'm like trying to get my crochet hooks out of the way so I can access my notes. I'll try to give you some nuggets of wisdom. They're probably not going to be in any kind of sensible order. I should talk about how your beginning and end should like resonate with one another and should dovetail, that they should basically be like symmetrical. They should be mirrors of one another. She talked about how the driving force of your story and the structure of your story is what does your character want and what are they going to do about it. The first third is them going after what they think they want. The second third is when things go wrong. And then the last third is going after what they really want or need. The underlying question of all of that should be why did they want it to begin with? That's going to inform the backstory and you need to be answering that on the page. She talked a lot about how you're looking for the domino effect and causality. She talked about this as well in the How to Plan Your Novel event that I did with Reedsy in February. But yeah, how each scene is only possible because of the things that came before it. So the causality from scene to scene is linked all the way through the story. She talked about ending each chapter with the reader wanting more, not necessarily on a cliffhanger, but just some kind of wanting more. Always make things worse for your characters. Be sadistic to your characters, basically, because when someone's back is against the wall, that's when they show you who they truly are. So don't be afraid to keep making things worse. You want to create damned if you do, damned if you don't decisions for them. We've got about 10 minutes until the next session starts, which is the author panel. So that'll be really good. I'm going to go get a little snack, let my dog out. So yeah, I'll see you back for the next one. Okay, 3 out of 4 done. That was another good session. I'm gonna be honest, I was really focused on listening to the point that I did not take as many notes as I should have, but I did take a few notes that I can run you through. First of all, on your first read through, after your first draft, try to get through it before taking notes. I very much co-sign this. When you're doing a structural edit, it's not helpful to be taking notes on the page. You want to be reading through it at least once in order to get a holistic picture. I actually feel like that's also a good approach when you're doing your line edit. Read through it all once before you start reading through to edit, because again, that gives you that full picture. Another insight, most writers are afraid of heavy-handedness, but sometimes they actually err on the side of being too subtle, and sometimes you do need to breadcrumb things a little bit better. Most writers will either be too subtle or too heavy-handed. Very rarely are people striking the right balance to begin with, and beta reader feedback can help you understand if you're being too subtle. Speaking of beta readers, make sure that you can ask your beta readers follow-up questions, otherwise you might get conflicting information. I think that sometimes, depending on how you structure your requests for feedback, some beta readers don't always articulate things in a way that's going to be the most helpful to you moving forward. They articulate it in terms of their own enjoyment, their own understanding, but sometimes they can be too prescriptive in their feedback or not prescriptive enough in their feedback. So asking follow-up questions can help you get to the heart of what's actually not working and reconcile any like differences of opinion that your different beta readers have. And then the last thing that I thought was really interesting, because the previous 2 sessions, the way that they talked about the first draft kind of felt like a pantser's first draft, or someone who might have had a rough outline, but they certainly hadn't done like a beat sheet or anything like that. Whereas these 3 authors, who are career authors at different stages of their careers, we're talking about how no more plotting than that is normal. And I agree with that. That's something I say all the time, that for career authors, being a pantser isn't really an option. And they were talking about how the more work you put into plotting, the more quickly you'll be able to dive into editing, because you won't have to reverse engineer a synopsis. You won't have to reverse outline. You'll already have that because you started with that. And it's a lot easier to diagnose what's not working about your story if you have the planning that went into that story to begin with. Those are the insights from the author session. We've got now 7 minutes until the next session starts. I'm going to be honest, I'm feeling it. I'm flagging. This is about the time of day that I'm usually mentally checked out, ready to go sit down and scroll or watch YouTube for the rest of the day. But we've got one more session and I do really want to lock in for it. So I'm annoyed that it's too late for caffeine to help me, but that's okay. I did also just quickly want to talk about the other events in the Readsy event series. So this is the second one of the year. There was one in February and they basically happen roughly every other month. It's not exactly every other month, but there's like 6 in the yearly series. So we've already had 2. The next one is in June, and it is how to find a literary agent, specifically within nonfiction. I personally am really excited about that one because while I don't write nonfiction, the way that I, as an unagented but traditionally published author, would go about finding an agent would be more similar to how a nonfiction writer would go about finding an agent. So I'm really interested in that one. And I think what I find really helpful about these sessions is that they do try to make it applicable to as many people as possible, no matter what you're writing. So that one sounds really interesting. Then in September, there's one about publishing in literary magazines. And this wasn't one of my official goals for the year, but it's something I'm thinking about for next year. Do I want to try to hone my craft for the purpose of submitting to some magazines? So I'm really interested in that one on the 14th of September. Then on the 12th of October, breaking into the children's book market. This is something I have thought about. There are a lot of people in my writing group that write both children's and adult fiction or just children's fiction, and I am very interested. It is a skill that I have never developed, but something that I am interested in. And then finally on the 16th of November, we have how to get a publishing deal. Isn't that what everyone wants? So that's obviously going to have lots of good insights. And there is a 12-month membership because obviously those are the rest of the ones for 2025, but there will be more beyond that. So you can get like an annual pass that saves you like 60%, but also if just 1 or 2 of those sounds interesting, you can get them individually. I have a link for you for that, so I'll put that in the description. That is an affiliate link because I love Readsy. I'm really excited for these events. Always good fun and so nice to be able to do like a high caliber writing conference from my own office. So anyway, sorry, we've only got 3 minutes now until the next session, so I'm gonna go ahead and log on to that and then I will summarize that for you at the end. sorry about that. I had to rush downstairs to have dinner. Now let's go through what we learned. Because it is dark out, I think we need those. Okay, so the last session was probably the most practical of all of them, in the sense that she broke down lots of specific polishing tips. She sort of reiterated point from earlier in the day that it's literally impossible to write a perfect first draft. Its only job is to exist. But then she went into some really specific things that you can look for as you are self-editing in order to try to make your manuscript as good as possible. So some of the things she talked about starting sentences with conjunctions. And when she said this, I went, because I do this all the time. I am very bad about this, but not bad about it because it's intentional. I like to write the way people talk. I'm writing contemporary romance. It makes sense to write the way people talk, and people talk by using conjunctions at the beginning of sentences. I think I just did it on that last sentence. You can rewind and see if you want. And if you look at, see, I just did it again. Now I'm going to be thinking about it. If you look at your sentences and every single thing is starting with a conjunction, or it's starting with however, or something like that, then your prose just starts to read a little bit like a list. And I was like, yes, okay, I get that. That makes sense. So she said, just do it with moderation and pay attention to how it's sounding when you read it. She also talked about redundancy checks with specific words. What are your crutch words, but also phrases? Don't think before you speak. What did that mean? I don't remember what that means. Talked about active versus passive voice, how a lot of people will say, make sure you're using the active voice. But I like that what she did was she took advice that everybody gives, like show, don't tell, or use the active voice, and talked about why it's important. So specifically with the active voice, it's because a passive voice creates distance from the main character or from the character that is taking action. And this can be effective in some places. She talked about how in like mystery, passive voice can be really effective, and thrillers, but not the whole time. And she also said reading aloud. Every single person that spoke today talked about reading aloud. This is actually not something that I do. I don't always do text to voice when I'm editing, but maybe I should start. She talked about looking out for repetition between your dialogue and your interiority. And I think that I hear a lot from romance readers on TikTok or on YouTube, whatever, about how sometimes authors spell things out for the reader too much, especially in romance. And I think it's to do with this point that she was talking about. And she was basically saying, if your character thinks something, so in the interiority, they go through a mental process and they think something, and then they say the same thing that they've just thought, that's repetitive. And you should err on the side of leaving it in the dialogue, because that's more active within the story. It's more interactive. So I thought that was good. Oh, 2 pages of notes from this one. She did go into some telling versus showing specifics that were very good, but were incredibly specific. So I'm not going to go through them now. She talked about making sure things are happening because of your main character, not just to them. So giving them agency, giving them power within the story. She talked a lot about world building, trying to give that information within context rather than info dumping. I really like that she broke down what could be like the source of some pacing issues. So when people say the pacing is not good or the pacing is uneven, I think is how she phrased it. So a scene that feels poorly paced or poorly in line with the rest of the story in terms of pace usually has either too much context or not enough context. So too much context being there's lots of info dumping, you're being repetitive, stuff like that. Whereas no context is like you're jumped straight into the action and you've not got the context or the orientation of like what's going on. Too much like starting and stopping contributes to that as well, or scenes just being too long and detailed. She said never have key moments off page. And I actually have an anecdote about this. Years ago on this channel, I was going through a project called Project Gilbert that has not gone anywhere to date. I do intend to come back to it, but it's parked at the moment. And at the beginning of that story, the main character gets laid off at work. And I originally had it happening where she got called back into the meeting, and then the next scene was her meeting up with her sister afterward for a drink. And my editor said to me, why are we not seeing this happen? This is an important emotional scene for her. So having key moments happen off page and then hearing about them after the fact is not effective. You want to feel in the action. She also talked about making sure motivations are clearly shown or told on the page, Don't save everything for the end of the story, and we need to see consequences unfold for your character. If they make a decision, all of the consequences of that decision need to be demonstrated. I think that's probably the bulk of what she talked about. Great event. Readsy always do really great events. I'm a big fan. Like I said, I've got an affiliate link in the description. Let me know if you're going to any of the upcoming ones, because I will also be there and I can say hey in the chat. But also just let me know if you've got any questions about it. It's been a very productive day. I think finishing the copy edits this morning was a huge weight off my shoulders, because like I said, this week I'm going to be doing my big annual writing reset, where I'm going to be setting goals for next year. I'm going to be doing my taxes. I'm going to be reviewing my tech stack, all of that. And having the copy edits done before then, I think is freeing up some mental space to focus on that. And a lot of the advice that I got in the session today is also just like good validation of some of the things that I already do, and giving me just like more things to think about. So one of the things I'm going to do at some point during the next week is I'm going to go through these notes and I'm going to find some practical things that I should be looking at, and I'm going to put them into my editing templates that I use on Notion. So these are just templates that I've created for myself. So when I'm doing my structural edit, when I'm doing my line edit, I've got checklists in my templates of all of the things that I should be looking at. And I think there have been a lot of practical things that were shared tonight that I can be adding to that checklist, or those checklists, because I think we got some things for sort of the structural edit stage of the process, some for the line edit stage. Lots of exciting things coming. If you want to see me vlog that annual writing reset, make sure you're following me, because I'm going to start filming that tomorrow. So that's coming your way very soon. But otherwise, I'm going to end this vlog here. So thanks so much for watching, and thanks for being along with me for the journey of getting this fourth book done. Like I said, huge weight off my shoulders, and you being here to, you know, encourage me. The encouragement you guys leave in the comments means a lot. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.